Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bobcat Outsider, the YouTube channel that brings you Bobcat football from a fan perspective. I'm your host, Shane Driscoll. Last week, the Cats went down to San Luis Obispo and defeated the Mustangs in overtime. This week, the Cats returned to Bozeman to host Sac State for homecoming. We'll talk about both of those games and the bigger picture in this week's episode of the Bobcat Outsider. Last week we talked about the challenge that Cal Poly offensive style was going to present to the usually dominant D-line of the Cats. And I think that bore out in the game. We saw that Cal Poly was actually able to generate yards. The defensive backfield was able to accomplish that second key that we talked about, which was even if Cal Poly was going to get those little chunk plays here and there, just prevent those explosive plays from happening and just give Cal Poly the time and number of reps that they need to make some mistake, whether it be a turnover or a penalty, to give the Cats the edge that they needed. I also talked about how I just thought that our guys were going to be bigger and stronger and just kind of overwhelm Cal Poly. Well, I was really surprised with the fight that the Cal Poly Mustangs were able to put up against our big dominant guys. Kudos to them and hats off. I think the Mustangs came into the game with a remarkable level of preparation and executed with precision. The Cats continue to assert themselves on the ground, and Tucker Rovig shows flashes of greatness at times. If he can dial in that consistency, I think we're going to see the Bobcat offense become a real problem for even the best FCS defenses. Cal Poly may have provided future Bobcat opponents the blueprint for keeping them from getting that late game avalanche of points. The Mustangs were able to own time of possession, beating the Cats by 17 minutes in that stat. The Cats defense not getting the ball a second time until the second quarter. Once again, Jacque Allen comes up with a big return to really spur the team on at an important moment. He also had an interception that I thought was key. It's funny that I mentioned James Campbell last week and how he's kind of quietly in on every special teams play. He actually was the one who sprung Jacque Allen open for that long return with a huge block at a key point in that return. Congratulations, Mr. Campbell. I'm glad to see that you got the internal nod for Special Teams Player of the Week. I'm sure Jared Padmos took a lot of grief for his one errant punt in this game, but I have to tell you, I absolutely loved his punting in this game. There was one mistake that he made, and it was a costly mistake, but I'll tell you what, him pinning those guys inside of their 10 a couple times, that's a big deal too. I'm so glad to see Ifanse back in this one, even if it was in a limited role. And I think Troy looked a lot better on defense in this game, probably owing that to the fact that they weren't using him on offense as well. I hope that Troy can get healed up and get back to 100%, but I think he at least looked better in this game on defense than he did in the previous. I also want to give Tucker Rovig a lot of love for this game. I know his second half wasn't exactly perfect, but his first half looked really good actually. And I want to remind you guys, he delivered a perfect ball as he was being hit. And the guy was like literally in his face in between him and the player he was trying to get to. So, I don't know how he delivered on that ball, but kudos to you, Tucker. I think you did a great job. As you continue to refine that play and get that consistency kind of built in, I think that you're going to make yourself a real weapon for this offense. Once again, Derek Marks delivers in crunch time with a crucial Superman tackle in the backfield to set up Cal Poly at 3rd and long, which they eventually didn't convert. And, that's the recipe. You got to get those guys in 3rd and long. And so I just give him a lot of credit in overtime for preventing them from getting down the field. And Travis freaking Johnson, once again, just dominant in that Wildcat position. How demoralizing would it be for a team to see him get in that Wildcat and know 9 times out of 10, he's just going to take the ball straight up the middle, and there's nothing we can do about it. In the end, this is another hard-fought, if ugly, road victory. These are the kind of things that you really can't take for granted, especially in the Big Sky Conference, especially at Cal Poly. This win puts the Cats at 5-1 overall, 5-0 in FCS play, and 2-0 in conference. And note that their 5-game win streak is the longest active win streak in the conference. With that win, the Bobcats retain their number 6 spot in the Stats FCS Top 25. Next Saturday, the Cats return to Bozeman for homecoming, where they host the Sac State Hornets. The Bobcats own the series 17 games to 7, but the Hornets won the last one, coming in 2016 in Sacramento. Sac State has played 2 FCS opponents this year, winning in both of those matchups. The first, a landslide 50-0 victory over Northern Colorado. The second, a still dominant victory over the Eastern Washington Eagles, who ranked at number 22 that week, although they have since fallen out of the rankings. Sac State leads the conference in rushing defense and scoring defense. They're second place in the conference in scoring offense. Although those statistics include a D2 team and a blowout over a struggling Northern Colorado team, it helps to look at their statistics against their FBS opponents. The Hornets held Arizona State to 2.3 yards per carry, their average being 3.4 yards, while Fresno State was held to 3.7 yards, under their 4.5 yard average. And whenever you can hold an FBS team under their average yards per carry, you're doing pretty good as an FCS team. Now let's take a look at some key matchups. This week's game is going to be strength against strength. As I mentioned, they have the number 1 rushing defense in the conference. Now, we're no stranger to good rushing defenses. Northern Arizona came into their game against the Bobcats with very strong numbers in rushing defense, and the Bobcats were able to demonstrate that they can still run against even tough rushing defenses. This challenge will probably be a little tougher though, and so we'll have to see, do the Bobcats come through and are they able to really truly run on even the best rushing defenses? MSU needs to win this competition, and if Tucker Rovig can improve his consistency just a little bit and present a real downfield threat to the Hornets, I think that the Bobcats can do just that. Number 5 is junior quarterback Kevin Thompson, and you heard that right, he is still a junior despite having redshirted at UNLV in, get this, 2014. He's been around forever, and he got an unprecedented 2-year extension by the NCAA. Thompson injured his UCL ligament in his shoulder, and he sat out for the 2014 and the 2015 season, and that may have played into the NCAA's decision. Thompson is a true dual threat who will present a unique problem to the Bobcats. Here's what Coach Jeff Choate had to say about him.
Their quarterback makes everything go. The Thompson kid is a true dual threat. I mean, he's a guy that he's a bigger, more physical runner. He's not necessarily a guy like what we saw last week in number 4 from Cal Poly, but they're going to run a lot of the same type of stuff that you see maybe like a Travis or a Troy run in our offense. Q punch read, some zone read stuff, but he is a between the tackles guy. He's not going to shy away from contact, big physical dude, and also has the ability to hurt you with his arm, which is not always the case with that style.
Junior running back Elijah Dotson wears number 33. He was first team All Big Sky in 2018, ran for over 1,000 yards, and led the Hornets in scoring. He also went over 1,000 yards in his true freshman year in 2017. He's a real weapon with speed to burn. Here's what Coach Choate had to say about Elijah Dotson.
He's a matchup problem because they want to get him on a linebacker, and he's faster than any linebackers we have. And I'm guessing this kid was probably, if he was a track guy in high school, he was probably a 10.6, 10.700 meter guy. And he can really roll. And so for us to be able to match that, it's going to be a little bit difficult because, you don't want to just sit there and play zone and let Thompson pick you apart. And you don't want to get playing man where they're going to run their rubs and their pick routes and get him in space. And they're going to look for those matchups on the linebackers. And so we've got to be smart about how we approach it.
On defense, watch out for George Obina and Darian Choate. Number 95, Darian Choate, is a senior D tackle who earned honorable mention all-conference honors in 2017. He came up with a big strip sack last week against Eastern Washington, which led to a fumble recovery and big return for touchdown by George Obina, who wears number 99 and plays defensive end. Obina is a preseason All-American. He was All-Conference in 2017. 2018, he was mostly out with injuries. In MSU's last matchup with the Hornets, Obina registered his season-high tackle count with 7. This team is going to present a serious challenge to the Bobcats, with one of the toughest teams that they've faced to date. Here's what Coach Choate had to say about that.
I think every year in this league, you're going to have that team. Last year, I think it was kind of Cal Davis that came out of nowhere and just emerged as a dominant force in this league. And certainly this year, you can see that that's Sacramento State without a doubt. When you're 6 games into a season, you can pretty much look at the stat sheet and see who a team is. And they are number 1 in the conference in total defense as well as scoring defense. They are number 2 in the conference in total offense and scoring offense. So they're one of the best teams in this league, without a doubt. And I think that when you look at who they've played and where they've played them, they gave Arizona State, who's one of the better teams in the Pac-12 South, all they wanted, a 19-7 game down there in Tempe. And then was really a tie game for going into the fourth quarter against Fresno State, a very good Mountain West team. And they've been dominant in each one of their Big Sky games, a 50-0 basically dismantling of Northern Colorado. Sorry, Jason, and then a really dominant performance against Eastern Washington, the national runner-up a year ago.
If the Bobcats are going to escape this game undefeated in FCS play, they need a really dominant performance out of their D-line, and they need great coverage out of the defensive backfield. But they also have to be sure not to overcommit on that pass rush, or Kevin Thompson or Elijah Dotson will make them pay on the ground. If the Tucker Rovig from the first half of the game against Cal Poly shows up in this one, it's Cats all the way. If he doesn't, they're going to have to kind of pull a rabbit out of their hat to win this one. But it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen that this year with these Bobcats. The Grizz pull off a similar comeback to what the Cats did against Northern Arizona. The Grizz starting out behind by 17 points, coming back to win their game against ISU 59-20. This win earns Dalton Snead his 3rd consecutive Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Week. He also gets the National Award for his performance this week. The Grizz will also face Sac State as their next opponent as they get a bye this week. So Grizz fans, if you're looking for a Bobcat game to watch, and I know you are, this should be a good one because you'll be able to get a scouting report on the team you're going to play next week. Again, kickoff is at 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon. It'll be on Fox and most of the state SWX if you're in Billings. And now time for an outsider's eye view. Last week we talked about the North Dakota State UC Davis game as being a telling game. To tell us a little bit more about both of those teams, along with Idaho, Eastern Washington, and Montana. Well, watching North Dakota beat UC Davis takes a little bit of that world beater feel out of that dominant performance that the Grizz had against them, although they beat them by so much that it's still a very impressive performance. It makes Eastern Washington's win against them look a little bit better, although Eastern Washington continues to struggle, dropping their game to Sac State last week. And I don't even know what to do with you, Idaho, as you guys continue your campaign to prove you're not bad or good, but both, as you almost knock off Weber, the top team in the conference. I mean, hey, kudos, you did a great job, but gosh, guys, you got to get a little bit more consistency. And Sac State's win over Eastern knocks them completely out of the top 25. I think that at this point, Eastern may not even be in the playoff conversation again a year after they were runners-up in the national championship. NDSU ties their longest win streak with 26 wins, once again proving they need to leave the FCS. And number 24, Stony Brook, takes number 2, James Madison, to the wire before falling to them in overtime. And now it's time for Outsider Opinions. And this week we're going to talk about expectations and how they affect our perception of the team. When a team experiences high expectations and high hopes at the beginning of a season, it makes it really difficult for fans to just sit back and enjoy the success that they're having because any perceived weakness poses a hazard to that optimism. I found that when the MSU offense was scoring over 50 points per game, most fans complained about the offense. They would say that they scored too fast. That was literally one of the complaints. Or that they just couldn't score when it was most important to get it done. Now that our defense is the strength of our team, I'm actually finding that fans are complaining about the defense. It's those expectations. When you think that you're really good in one area, you just set those expectations so high that it makes it difficult for any performance to be good enough. So I just want to tip my hat to the guy who calls himself Cats No Matter What on the fan forum, trying to bring a little bit of sanity into the situation. It's 5-0 in FCS play, and there's not a lot of teams that are in that situation right now. So it's time for us to just sit back and enjoy the ride. You know, if we drop one of these next few games, I mean, God forbid, we don't want that to happen. But if we do, the world isn't going to be over. We're still going to be in contention for a seed. And so I think it's a good opportunity to just have a little bit of perspective, sit back and enjoy what we're watching. Because as Colter said on Tuesday on his radio show, MSU is playing at an elite level. It's just not elite at quarterback right now. So fans need to take a second and Look at the line play. Don't watch the ball, watch the line, and just watch how the offensive line operates and watch how the defensive line operates. They're really doing remarkable things right now. It's just more difficult to appreciate as a fan. So what do you guys think? Am I sugarcoating a terrible situation, or are the Bobcats much worse than I think that they are and we're going to lose all the rest of the games? Let me know in the comments below. Do you have a business, organization, or event that you would like to feature in the Bobcat Outsider? If so, send me an email. I'll leave my address in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone. You can always find me on Twitter at Shane Driscoll. You can always find the most knowledgeable, best researched, and most thorough Bobcat and Big Sky coverage on Skyline Sports, SkylineSportsMT.com. If you liked the video, be sure to leave it a like, and if you want to see more like it, click subscribe. If you click the little bell, it'll let you know right away the next time that I post a video. I'll catch you next time, and until then, go Cats!